Hi folks, I believe I'm now live. Welcome to this virtual tasting of Lucky White Heather Gin Club. My name is Jamie and I will be your host this evening. We are going to be tasting some three lovely gins for you this evening. We have got... I'm going to turn that off. We have got three lovely gins for you to try. We've got Crossbill Sumac, we've got the Inventor's Co-Gin, and we've got King's Hill Gin. Hopefully you've received your boxes, you received everything that you require to take part in this tasting. If you're joining us without a box, then that's great too. You are welcome to watch along and learn a few things about each of the three gins. And of course, if you want to know a little bit more, you can get involved. You can ask questions either by getting involved on the YouTube link. You can add comments. We'll be reading out to each of the distillers or brand ambassadors that we've got today. You can also get in touch through Facebook and Instagram. That is at Lucky White Heather Club. You can get involved that way. Send us a message. I'll keep an eye on that and see how we get on. This is the first time doing it through YouTube Live. We've done a few of these virtual tastings so far through Zoom. What we've found is that, before we even talk about that, just to give an introduction about myself. So my name is Jamie, and I've been running the Lucky White Heather Club just for a few weeks now. Started it up basically during lockdown because I had nothing else to do. My normal day job is I run the Summer Hall Drinks Lab. This is a venue here in Edinburgh where we host live tastings. I say the word live, of course they're live. I have in-person tastings of gin and rum and cocktails. Normally, of course, having people in front of me, but now during these strange times we've had to change and diversify and have these virtual tastings instead. It takes a little bit of getting used to, of course, not having folks in front of me, but it is quite nice to have some guests on to chat to. What we found is when we moved to doing these virtual events, when doing it through Zoom, we found that everyone most folks just wanted to watch and listen and learn, as opposed to having their cameras on and getting involved that way. So what I thought we'd do is we'd change things about and go through YouTube Live this time. It means we can introduce a few more elements to it and include video, bring in some interviews, that kind of thing. So it means that hopefully the production level should be a little bit greater. But just to run through the format and exactly how we're going to work this, we have two lovely guests joining us, or I guess three lovely guests joining us this evening, and we're going to taste their gin. So do a very quick hello to those folks just now. So we have lovely Stuart from Crossbill, and we have Stephen and Andrea from the Inventor's Gin Co. You might want to get a little bit closer for this shot. There we go. Skinnier box for this one. But we've also got Sandy from King's Hill Gin, who will be joining us by a video later on too. So the premise behind Lucky White Heather is a gin club. We'll be running this every week or 2 weeks, depending really on demand. This started off as a side project for me, but it is becoming a little bit more popular, so we're investing a little bit more time and energy into it. The idea behind it is to showcase the best of Scottish gins. We of course have some wonderful Scottish gin at the moment from all corners of the country, and with so many different gins it can be often difficult to try as many as you can. Therefore, something like this will give you the opportunity to try a small amount and learn a little bit more about the gins, meet the people behind the brands as well. That will give you that opportunity to try something new and hopefully find a new favourite. We also like to have these cocktails and mixers as well that you can sample along and try something new that way. So we are going to go ahead and get cracking into our very first gin. So the way we're going to work this for each of the gins, we are going to try a neat tasting of the gin. Some people might not be familiar with doing neat tastings of gin. Gin is perhaps less, or people are less accustomed to drinking neat gin than they would say something like whiskey or rum. It's good, however, a good opportunity to see the differences between these three different gins and, of course, any other gins that you try and eat. What I have found in my experience of many, many years doing gin tastings and other kind of tastings, that there's normally two occasions where people have tried neat gin. This may be some kind of gin tasting or gin festival. I know Stuart and Stephen and Andrea have been to a few. In fact, we were just chatting off air about one of the festivals that they met at just last year when we were allowed to have events in person. And normally that is one occasion where folks are able to try neat gin. The second occasion, most common occasion where people try neat gin, would tend to occur around 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. When I've got a couple of nods there from Andrea and Stephen, yes. Around about 2 a.m. when you've run out of things to mix with the gin. But we are going to give you the opportunity to try the gin neat, because it is quite interesting to do. Of course, if you've got a mixers, if you've not purchased the cocktails and mixers add-on, you may have your own. You can choose to add those as well. But for each of the gins, we'll talk through the neat tasting. We'll talk, of course, to the people behind the brand, learn a little bit more about what makes them tick and the stories behind the gin itself. Feel free, as I said, to get in touch through Facebook or Instagram or through YouTube and let us know how you're getting on. Let us know what you're tasting, how you're enjoying it, and of course, if you enjoy it, that would be great. So we are going to start with our very first gin, and that is the Crossbill Sumac. So I'm going to bring Stuart in to the call. Hi, Stuart.
Hello.
Hey, mate. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us, pal. So we are experiencing a slight delay, it seems. You're good there, Stuart?
Yeah, just a little slight delay, but we'll get there.
Okay. So you might, Stuart, you can switch your audio to the Skype call and turn off the video audio for the live stream, if that helps. That way we can interact in real time. How's that?
Okay.
Hey, yeah. Nice. Okay, perfect. So yes, very welcome. Welcome to Lucky White Heather, my friend, and thanks for joining in. We've got we've got a really interesting gin for folks to try. And I know we spoke a couple of weeks ago about getting Crossbill involved, and I've been a fan for many years. And one of the other things that I do is I run the Juniper Festival. This is longest running Scottish Gin Festival. Started back in 2014. And Crossbill has been there from the start, pretty much, even before when I started, and obviously before you started as well with the company, Stuart. So it's been a big part of my kind of gin career, and we wanted to offer something that's a little bit more unique. And Stuart, of course, you said something like this product is quite interesting to try and perhaps needs a bit of explanation. So it's an excellent opportunity to get that out to some people and get them to try it. So if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and Crossbill, and then of course the actual gin that we have in front of us today.
Yep, certainly. So Crossbill as a brand can be traced back to 2008, where we originally started with a vodka, Pincer vodka. So it's a botanically infused vodka with milk thistle and elderflower. That was quite ahead of its time. At the time it was Grey Goose, Belvedere, flashy, showy vodkas. So it faded away. But the gin boom came around, like the Hendrix, Carun, the Botanist, all sort of starting to make waves in the craft gin scene. So having a bit of knowledge in the spirits business, our distiller decided that now was the time to move into gin. So we started back 2013 developing the recipe. Moving forward, we did. So with Crossbill, we use only Scottish juniper. So we go up to the Highlands of Scotland, handpick the juniper, and use it fresh. So Scottish juniper used to be a massive export for Scotland. It was shipped over to Holland, where they used it to make Genevieve originally. So it's a good historical tie back to the beginnings of gin. So we wanted to really focus on the Scottishness of and use that product. So 2014 is when we first started bottling our original gin, Crossbill 100, and we've just developed from there. So originally based in Aviemore, where we handpicked the juniper, we're now located down in the Barrowlands of Glasgow, where we distill and run our gin school. So we've come quite a long way in a few short years.
Yeah, indeed. It's the gin school is such a great idea and allows people obviously the chance to actually make their own, and you can guide them through that process. So that's brilliant, and it's such a brilliant idea using that Scottish hand juniper, and not just the hand forest juniper as well, but one of the things I love about Crossbill is the fact that you've got such a minimal botanical bill. That really those ingredients have to shine through, and they have to be good quality, and they really sing.
Yeah, that's it. We kind of use two ingredients, fresh Scottish juniper and fresh rosehip. So, yeah, there's kind of not a lot of room to hide if you're not using quality ingredients. So it's kind of good quality, fresh product, which kind of stands up really well, and gives us a really bold juniper-led gin, which is which gin should be.
Yes, well, it's funny that term. We tend to use the term, juniper forward gin, but of course, all gin should be juniper forward, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But let's try our gin that we've got here. So if you want to, those listening at home, if you want to get your bottle of Crossbill Sumac, you should hopefully have a little tasting glass. We're going to try a neat sample of this. And we're going to talk through it with Stuart and talk about how this differs from the Crossbill 100, the additions to that, and obviously the flavour that we might get. So if you want to grab a small tasting glass, now if you've been to a tasting before, you would know the kind of expectations or know the process involved in doing a tasting. So the first thing that we always do, something I always encourage folks to do when you are doing a tasting of anything, whether that be gin, whether that be wine, whiskey, so always have a look at the product, because it can tell us something about the liquid itself based on the colour. Now, of course, gin tends to be clear and colourless, but when you get a product like this, we can tell something about it. Now, not only the colour, we get that lovely kind of pinky, kind of peachy hue to it, but also you'll notice that there is some sediment in it. Stuart, can you tell us a little bit about that briefly?
Yep, so the gin you're about to try is the Crossbill Sumac. So we use a fresh sumac from North America, which was handpicked in New Hampshire and then brought over to Scotland, where we have then distilled it and then macerated it with the gin afterwards. So the colour is coming from the fresh sumac sitting in the distillate and rested, so it's pulled out the flavours. Sumac's quite a fine little cones and berries, so the kind of fine berries have kind of come out and then it's unfiltered, so you've kind of not taken out the very fineness. Mm-hmm. So you've got those little bits of sediment that are floating around in there. Yeah,
so that's a good thing to point out, is that is meant to be like that. Please don't think that your Crossbill is dodgy. So we'll talk a little bit more about what sumac actually is, because we've kind of talked about how it can be a little bit confusing. But let's do a quick neat tasting of that, so give it a smell if you're watching at home. Give it a smell. I'm curious as to know how you perceive this gin. Obviously, when we look at the colour of something, it can give us some idea over the perceived flavour, and it can kind of throw us a little bit sometimes. We look at something that's maybe this colour, and we have certain expectations over what the flavour profile is going to be. We tend to see this colour, and we might think of spices, perhaps. We might think of berries. But when we smell this, we certainly don't get that strong flavour. We get that lovely kind of bright and citrusy note. So obviously the sumac here, well, of course the juniper being in this, we get those lovely floral notes in the pine, and the rose hips give it that lovely citrus note too, and that kind of lovely almost fruity floral flavour. But then we've got the sumac as well. So tell us a little bit more about sumac, what that actually is, and where you get that from.
Yeah, so most people know sumac as a sort of Middle Eastern spice. It's used a lot in kind of cooking over there. So Ottolenghi, the chef, people most notably know sumac from his cooking. It's kind of put on salads, used in kebabs and whatnot. But the North American version is, most people know it as botanical that's used in pink lemonade. So Native Americans pick it, infuse it in water due to its citrus properties, so it's kind of gives it this kind of lemonade citrusy flavour. So it's kind of dry, citrusy in its kind of taste.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day called Stuff You Should Know, quite a big American podcast, and they're talking about is a podcast about lemonade, and they mentioned sumac. They mentioned Native American pink lemonade, which I thought was quite handy. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's called Stuff You Should Know. So folks, if you are tasting along at home, obviously let us know what you think of your Crossbill Staghorn Sumac. What we've got to pair this with this evening is we've got some tonic. We've got London Essence Co. Tonic. This is bitter orange and elderflower. So really, obviously with that dry citrus notes, we are going to pair that with those more floral notes from the elderflower and serve this long drink. And I've included a little bit of orange peel in your garnish pack if you want to taste that along with that. And I know some of you have got the orange peel as opposed to just the tonic, so feel free to add whatever you like and tell us how you're enjoying that and see how you get on with that one. So there we go, that is our Crossbill Staghorn Sumac. And just interestingly, just let us know about Crossbill. Where does the name come from, and how does that link to the sumac?
Yeah, so the brand is named after the Scottish bird, the crossbill, which lives in the Highlands of Scotland. It has a crossbeak, which is used to price open pine cones. So where we forage juniper, it flies around, so it's kind of a nice tie into that. It also gives us a nice colour palette, so we'd work with the black and the reds from the bird. So that's where the brand name comes from. Kind of looking further into it, this is where the American Staghorn Sumac comes in. It's has a cousin, which is the North American red crossbill, which lives in New Hampshire, in that kind of northeast area of the States. So developing the gins, looking to do something different. Spoke to a few people, different foragers in North America, who came along and suggested sumac as an interesting thing that's kind of not been used before, and felt that it might work in a gin with its citrus properties. So
perfect.
Scottish crossbill, the cousin, the North American red crossbill, ties in together greatly.
I know, it's lovely. I love a little story, and I know a lot of people who get involved in these kind of things love the little bit of story, and those little tie-ins are what make it kind of special. And just to finish up, Stuart, thank you very much for that, mate. But just to finish up, what else can people expect to see from Crossbill? What else is in your range, and where can we find it?
Yep, so you can find us online, crossbillgin.com. We've got 4 main gins. So our Crossbill 100, which is our flagship gin, so it's 2 botanicals, the Scottish juniper fresh rosehip. We have the Crossbill 200, which is a limited edition gin, which uses juniper from one specific bush. So it's a single specimen, which is around 200 years old, and then bottled at still strength, so it's at 59.8. We have the Staghorn Sumac, which we're all trying this evening and hopefully enjoying. And we have a pineapple gin liqueur, which is a bit of a special one. So it's caramelised fresh pineapple, fresh ginger, fresh thyme, fresh juniper, distilled, macerated, and then rested in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. So it's a real rich, nice winter drink for me. Kind of sip over ice. It's great. And
yes.
We have our gin school as well.
What's that, sorry?
We also have our gin school as well in Glasgow, so hopefully once restrictions are loosened a little bit, we'll be able to have you all over to visit and come see what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope... lost your audio there, but sure. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully we get to come back and do some live events with you in the gin school. It'd be quite nice to come and visit once we can. But
definitely.
Thanks very much, man. I appreciate you coming along and chatting for a few minutes and telling us a little bit more about Crossbill.
No, again, thank you very much for having us. And Paul, remember, we'll also do a little discount for everyone who's here tonight. So if you use the code LWH10, you can get 10% all the products on our website. So just a little thing for all you guys taking part tonight.
Okay, I've just added that to the chat box on YouTube. So if you're watching the live stream, you'll be able to see that LWH10 as the code if you to get 10% off. Thank you very much, Stuart. That's brilliant. Feel free to stick around and watch the rest of the show and heckle if you so wish.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right. So what I've also put on the live chat, if you go onto YouTube, is a link Now this is something that I'm trialing out because we have the functionality to be able to have some live callers. So if you are watching at home and you want to get involved, if you don't want to use a chat box, you can actually click that link and your face will appear on my screen, and I will, through the wonders of technology, put you onto the screen where Stuart once was, and you'll be able to join us and ask any questions of myself or of any of our guests this evening. So feel free to click on that link. Let us know how that goes. This is the first time, as I said, trialling that out. So we're quite interested to see how that goes. But thank you very much again, Stuart. So we are going to move on to our second gin. And this is the Inventor's Code gin. This is a new one to me. So it's really great, as well as the Lucky White Heather Club giving you the opportunity to try some new gins. It's also a great opportunity for me to try some new stuff too. And it was really nice to meet Andrea and Stuart earlier on. Stephen, sorry. So we're going to try this neat in a second, but I'm going to bring the folks back into our call. Welcome.
We're having a bad connection evening.
Are you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Much of what you're saying.
You're sorry, you're not able to catch much of what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not catching much of what you're saying. What I will do is I'll introduce the company. It's myself and my husband, and we pretty much work from the home premises. We kind of got onto the trail about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about a year and a half ago. We launched to market September last year, and since then it's been non-stop. It's been non-stop. It literally has been non-stop. We're called Inventor's Gin. My husband is an engineer to trade, and he is forever inventing. I'm going to say crazy things sometimes really good things, and this is one of the really good things. We had never been involved with the drinks business before. I work in pharmaceuticals, and as I say, Stephen's an engineer. He also works in the sort of medical devices. So yeah, it's been a good journey for us, and it's just going from strength to strength.
Wonderful, I'm so glad, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me as I'm talking. Again, if you want to switch your audio to the Skype, that might help if you've not done so already. Or if you are having problems with that, then stick it on the YouTube live, and we'll obviously deal with that delay. But it's really nice to hear, and obviously you have very different backgrounds from other folks within the gin industry, so it's always refreshing to see that kind of outlook and that other people from outside of the drinks industry can bring. So it's really wonderful to see, and such a gin like this, obviously, with some kind of maybe more unusual botanicals in here. We're going to do a little neat tasting of our gin. If you want to talk through the flavour of this and tell us why you've chosen these particular botanicals and why this particular crazy invention stuck where the others didn't.
Okay, do you want to talk about the ginny pigs? You can talk about the ginny pigs.
My inspirations are the sort of great discoverers and inventors and the Industrial Revolution and things, steel mills and raging infernos and furnaces and things. So we wanted a gin that had some kind of a fire in it. So chili was an obvious choice, and we decided to go with smoked chili and smoked pink pepper to give it something slightly different.
Yeah. And that certainly comes through when tasting it neat, for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to say for me, when I have it neat, I see you get a warm cuddle on the inside, because it sort of coats your tongue, and then when you swallow it, it's just warm and glowy inside. But yet, when you mix it with a tonic, a plain tonic, it's quite refreshing. So it kind of takes on a different attitude depending on what you're mixing it with. So from that's why we like to also call it Inventor's Gin, where you can invent whatever you want to mix it with, because there's way too many gins out there that's on, I'm going to say, the supermarket shelves that say you must have it with this and you've got to garnish it with that, and we don't believe that that's the right thing to do, because everybody's taste buds are different. So what I like is a citrus or a spice or a whatever is different for everybody else. So make your own what you like for you. Personally, I like my Inventor's Gin with ginger ale or with ginger beer. That's just my preference. It's not anybody else's. It's just my preference, because everyone's different.
Yep,
It's good with red cola too. There you go. That's another story.
Or iron brew in an emergency.
Yeah, you can have it with iron brew. Yeah, a gin brew. A gin brew is quite
gin brew.
good.
So I was turned on to gin and iron brew fairly recently, and it's a winner for sure. Now, what I love that approach to it, and I love that we kind of share that same ethos of experimenting with different flavors. And if anyone watching has been to any tasting event that I ran in the past through the gin cruises or at the Drinks Lab or even at the Juniper Festival, you'll know that I'm always talking about the fact that I'm not a big fan of this idea of a perfect serve or recommended serve. Just like you were saying there, Andrea, we tend to stick to that. We tend to look up gin companies' websites and look at what they recommend. However, what that I feel is that can be a little bit more restrictive in that if you don't like the recommended serve, does that mean that you don't enjoy the gin as much as you potentially could? It's certainly having that idea of being able to experiment and try your own and find your own perfect serve, I think is really a great idea, and it's something that we really like to focus and show a lot. And for that reason, is whenever we pair any of the tonics or pair any mixers or the gins or the garnishes, we deliberately don't choose the recommended serve. We want to give you the opportunity to try something new. And I really, on that note as well, feel free to, obviously I've kind of recommended a few tonics and mixers and stuff here, but feel free to change about the order and mix different gins with different mixes and different garnishes and see what you think. Really is a great idea. So yes, we get on the nose and on the palate, certainly we get that lovely kind of rich, smoky chili flavour. If anyone has wants to go on to the Gin Foundry website and have a look at their tasting wheel, this is something that I normally provide in advance, and apologies for not doing that already, but there is a really wonderful tasting wheel that you can actually go on and get from Gin Foundry. You can buy that as a print, but what this does is it gives you the kind of vocabulary that you need to be able to talk about gin. It gives you the different flavours that you might experience, and it just gives you a little bit of a hint over what you might be tasting. I should also point out it's a very subjective thing. We're never doing a tasting of anything at all, whether that's gin or rum or beer. Everyone has their own experiences and everyone has their own taste buds and sense of smell to draw from. Therefore, we will all experience different things, and we'll all have our own right or wrong answers. In fact, scratch that, there are no wrong answers. It's a very subjective thing. So, what we've done here with that kind of smoke and spice, what I want to do is really kind of lift it up by offering something quite citrusy and zingy, but also with a slight kind of savoury note to it as well, to really complement that kind of earthy, smoky spice. So we paired it with this Bonaccord salted grapefruit soda. Now this is an Edinburgh company, Bonaccord. Some folks might be familiar with from back in the day. I can see Stuart nodding there. He knows the brand. They started, or very popular, started in Arbroath, and they were popular in Aberdeen and Arbroath, going around in their electric vans with their cola and their ginger beer and their different soft drinks and their iconic bottles. Now that company started in the early 20th century and ran through until about 20 years ago when the company went under. However, the descendants of that, the granddaughter of the original owners, restarted the company and had this kind of breathed this new life into the brand and introduced a few new flavours. So as well as a lovely tonic that they do, they've got some cloudy lemonade, they've got ginger beer, they've got a really amazing rhubarb soda, which is great with gin, but they also have this lovely salted grapefruit soda. This was a collaboration with an Edinburgh bar called Lucky Liquor Co. And they worked together to create a flavour profile, originally actually to pair with the rum that the guys behind Lucky Liquor Co. make Seawell from, but while it was designed for that, I think it works really well with particular gins. So we want to give that a try. We've got some fresh ginger in there. Now with your ginger, I've given you a large chunk. What we'll get you to do is cut that in half, or cut the end off of it, because really what we're looking for is that the fresh ginger. So obviously it's been sitting in that little bag and it might not be as fresh, but if you cut into that, you're exposing the inner flesh, which will be lovely and fresh. And ginger has this lovely citrus note to it as well as a spice. So place that on the top of your drink with the salted grapefruit soda and your Inventor's Code gin and see what you think. Please, obviously let us know how you're enjoying that, how you're getting on with that one. I've got a couple of comments from Crossbill saying that really refreshing with the tonic, and someone has, Emma said that the gin school is on their list, so you can look out for some visitors to that, sure. But thank you so much, Andrea and Stephen, for joining us this evening. It's been really great to have you on and to try your gin. And you will be able to, I mentioned at the start, you will be able to get involved with the brand. We will be, obviously if you get any questions after the live stream, you can get in touch with us and we can forward it on, and I'm sure Stephen and Andrea will be on Facebook and commenting and whatnot. And engaging with you guys. We will also have some gin packs. If you're watching, I know Stephen and Andrea, you'd shared a link on to some friends perhaps. If you're watching and you don't have the gins or you don't have the packs, then you can get in touch with us later on, and you can actually buy some of the sets that you can have as a nice Christmas gift or whatever. Another chance to share the love of your gin. But thank you very much. All right. So hopefully you're enjoying it. I know we're kind of running through this fairly quickly. It is perhaps a little bit different from doing a tasting. We have it in person, so I can't actually see the rate in which you're drinking. But I'm sure, I know some of you are having your own little private Zoom party, so I'm sure you can set your gin aside and head on to the next gin. And that is our King's Hill. So, we are going to try this one again. We're going to grab that gin neat. Now, Sandy from King's Hill, the distiller, unfortunately couldn't make us. We've got a little video to explain the brand and explain the story behind King's Hill. So I'll play it for you now.
Hello there to everyone at the Little White Heather Gin Club. My name's Sandy and I'm the fella behind King's Hill Gin. Apologies I can't be there with you tonight. Hopefully this little video will do instead. Hope you're having a nice time so far. So I'll just give you a little overview of King's Hill Gin. So we're a small company based out in Lonehead in Midlothian, where everything's still done by hand. We gather a lot of our botanicals from the Pentland Hills, just across the road, and that's where we take our brand name from as well, because there's a certain spot up there called King's Hill, where there was basically a pretty crazy bet took place between Sir William Sinclair, which is a local nobleman, and King Robert the Bruce. It's pretty crazy, involves people's heads getting chopped off and losing entire royal estates and that, so it's a belter of a story if you want to check out on our website. But we actually gather some of our heather from the very spot that's King's Hill, so that's where we take our name. So it's pretty an interesting story. So here's our 200 litre copper alembic still called Marion, after my late grandmother. The more delicate botanicals that we gather from the hills, we vapour infuse them here in this onion section of the still to avoid the flavours getting lost in the sort of punchy juniper and coriander flavours. I do have a little sidekick here actually, he's called Teddy. He's a distillery menace. I think he's eating a piece of palate at the moment. So, as I mentioned before, the 12 botanicals that we have in our gin. Yeah, I'll just give you a quick run through there. Gorse, this is the one that we forage. Elderflower, we forage. Rose hips, we forage, as do heather. And you'll see just your pretty standard botanicals there. And you'll see our final product there in its beautiful new bottle. So, you'll find that we use a lot of juniper in our process because it's just because I love it, and people shy away from it nowadays because it's such a sort of punchy flavour, but not me, because I absolutely love it, so I can't help but use loads of it, which creates a really tasty gin. Our perfect serve is Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic and a slice of grapefruit, because I feel it sort of really complements our gin. It just seems to work really nicely. Hope you guys have enjoyed our wee tour here with myself and Ted, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope you have a lovely time in your tasting. Thanks very much.
Hey, thanks, Danny. I appreciate that, mate. That's I had the pleasure of heading out. Of course, Sandy couldn't meet us or couldn't be on the live call tonight, but I did have the pleasure of heading out to the distillery last week to meet the team and to meet little Teddy there. My little puppy Eddie went and visited, and they had a great time running about the distillery and fighting with each other. But he's kindly obviously sent us a little video and sent us some lovely gin. So if you've not done so already, grab your King's Hill gin and give this a little smell and give this a try. So obviously in the video he mentioned the botanicals that we use in there. So we've got some really delicious kind of citrus and floral notes in here from you've got the elderflower and we've got the gorse and we've got the heather. So really beautiful gin. Give us a little try neat and see what you think. Of course you can let us know through the comments. So what we've done here to pair with this, because we've got those lovely kind of bright citrus notes and that lovely kind of freshness, I've got a little cocktail that I've devised for you. Now the recipe of which I will send out an email to everyone afterwards, just so you can, if you wish, make it at home. But what I have done, rather than trying to make this cocktail for you live, because I will knock something over. In fact, when doing this cocktail video that I'm about to show you earlier on, I did knock over a bottle over my keyboard, which I'm very surprised that it is still working, which is great. But I'm going to show you this little video of how I made your cocktail using the King's Hill gin. Or a little twist on an apple Southside cocktail, you're going to pair it with the King's Hill gin. The Southside cocktail, Prohibition era cocktail, around that time, of course, when the American government banned the production of alcohol, we see a lot of amazing gin cocktails springing up, essentially to try and hide the fact that the booze that was being made illegally tasted pretty horrible. So there's things like the Southside grew up in places like Chicago. So this is traditionally gin, lemon and lime and mint. We're going to use roughly those ingredients and add a couple more. So we are going to add to our cocktail shaker, we're going to add some sea buckthorn tea. This is made by Etiquette, an Edinburgh-based tea blenders. Really beautiful tea using some dried sea buckthorn, which is in fruit at the moment around the coast of Scotland. 25 mils. We're going to add roughly 35 mils of pressed apple juice and 20 mils of lemon. Now in your case, I have not used fresh lemon simply because trying to transport that through the post can cause some difficulties with flavour. So we've actually used powdered citric and malic acid to replicate the acidity you would find in lemons. We're then also going to add to that a little bit of mint syrup, which I don't have, but 50 mils of mint syrup. So again, instead of using fresh mint, again transporting that can be a little bit more difficult. Hopefully your garnishes are perfectly fine. We would add 50 mils of that to our cocktail shaker and we give this a good shake up. I've got some ice in here already. Ah yes, mint syrup, here we go, I knew I had it. Pour about 50 mils in there. Another quick shake. And we are going to strain that out into our champagne coupe. You of course will add your King's Hill gin to that to make a really beautiful cocktail and a little sprig of mint on that. You can have this served up with some ice, or you can have it served long with ice or served up in a champagne coupe or martini like so. Beautiful. Cheers. So you might be able to tell that I made that video about half an hour ago on the fly, and I've almost finished my cocktail. But hopefully you enjoy your drink with the King's Hill. And of course, we'd be remiss to not discuss the bottle itself. Hopefully be able to see that there. Certainly go and check out their social media and have a look at the bottle. It was really beautiful. Now, one thing, we're doing the Lucky White Heather tastings here every week now. I've purposely not gone, because if anyone's been to a gin tasting before, then likelihood is, if you've been to a distillery or something, the likelihood is you'll have been talked through the history of gin and how it's made, and all these wonderful things. But once you've heard it once, you don't need to hear it time and time again. Therefore, what I've done is each week we'll talk to the distillers, talk through different gins, and we'll try them and try and make it as interactive as possible, I guess. We're still learning. This is a very new thing that I am doing, and hopefully it works, and hopefully you're able to enjoy this at home. But what we're also planning on doing, is that once we finish this and once we get into the swing of things and make this a regular occurrence, we'll have a kind of video library where not only will you be able to log on and watch a little video on each gin and where it comes from and the different botanicals used, and talk through the tasting notes in a little bit more detail. We'll also have some videos on gin history and videos on how gin is made and the kind of thing that if you're interested in, you can go and seek out and watch, as opposed to each week logging on and then the first 10 minutes is going through the same things over and over again. I want to try and make it as fun to join in. Of course, each week will be 3 different gins from different parts of the country, 3 different mixes and garnishes, and 3 different ways of enjoying your gin. So hopefully you have enjoyed that and enjoyed some lovely gins. If you've got any questions about any of those, then feel free to leave us a comment, send us a message through Facebook or Instagram or any method you wish. You can email me to hello@luckywhiteheatherclub.co.uk and we'll get back to you and we can chat a little bit more about the gins. But thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy the gins that you have. Thanks very much, folks. Cheers.